Tune into the Custody Lawyer Podcast with your host, nationally acclaimed divorce and custody attorney, Janet McCullar. You will certainly glean from Janet's 26 years of experience as the custody lawyer, with every show revealing hard facts on visitation, alienation, child support, and how to best help your kids as they transition into a new normal. Listen and find out how "We have a passion for families in crisis" has become our moniker. You'll want to share the Custody Lawyer Podcast with anyone you know going through this difficult journey.
Welcome back to the Custody Lawyer Podcast with your host, Janet McCullar. She's actually the host. You're the custody lawyer.
I'm the custody lawyer.
But thanks for letting me interview you
Thank
today.
You,
and congratulations on your book, The Custody Lawyer. #1, grab it. You can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere. You can ask for this book in your bookstore because the hardcover, the print covers are coming. You're helping a lot of people.
I sure hope so.
Yeah. For a lot of years you've been doing this, and we talked a little bit about parental alienation. How big of a problem is it? What is it? What if I'm the parent that's being alienated? What do we do?
So parental alienation is really on the rise in cases. Over the last 26 years that I've been doing custody cases, I've really seen that become more and more a focus in my cases. And one of the most important things about it, if you're experiencing alienating type behavior from the other parent, it's so important to get in and see a lawyer right away, because there are things that we can do, boundaries we can put in place, orders we can put in place that help stop estrangement escalating into a full-blown case of alienation where the children no longer want to see the other parent. We don't want it to get that far. That when it gets to that extent, it's really, really tough.
So it's when one spouse is in pain and they're doing things to manipulate and control and basically punish the other spouse?
I think that's the underlying thing that's happening in those sort of cases. Your spouse may have cheated on you, and so you're hurt deeply by that it's a very, adultery is a very painful thing. And so then sometimes unwittingly you think your children need to be protected from that cheater. But a bad spouse doesn't mean they're a bad parent. And so you really have to separate out that adult feeling, the adult pains and hurts, and focus on the needs of the children, instead of starting to use them as a pawn. I'm not going to let you see the children because you've hurt me. Right. Those sort of things.
What are some of the long-term effects on children? Because I know you try to fix it on the front end. Right. But I guess in the long term it can be devastating, right?
For a child to not have a relationship with a parent is, we know, psychologically damaging to children. Children need both of their parents involved in their lives. They need good, healthy, fit parents involved in their lives. Wow. And a lot of times when you're involved in a case involving parental alienation, there's a true belief by the other parent that there's something wrong with the other parent, and that may be, but every parent has a right to parent, and needs to be involved with their children. And if parents are cast aside and children don't have relationships, parent may falsely believe that they're protecting their children, but they're really setting them up for years of hardship and struggle in their adult years, where they sometimes come to believe the poison that they've been fed about the other parent, and they haven't, and the children are caught sometimes in the middle, because so often what I see is a parent who's been alienated can talk about all these happy times when they were an involved parent and involved with their children in sporting activities and things like that. And suddenly this child who they had a close relationship suddenly wants nothing to do with them. It doesn't make sense. And so for a child who has been poisoned, they're going to have those memories of those good times too. And how do they reconcile that? And the last thing I would say about it is, often children who are placed in that situation, they know that one parent is insecure and needs them to show this unconditional love to them. And that unconditional love means that if I'm there and the other parent is there, you have to give me your allegiance. And because children fear that relationship being broken off. So if I don't give all my love to mom, for example, and I show that I love dad, well then I'm hurting mom.
Right.
And I know now that if I hurt mom, that has a consequence for me, and I don't want to have that anymore. So it sets up a tough situation for children and can have lasting impacts on them.
So it's actually an opportunity to do something positive in your kids' lives that can really impact them positively for the future when you realize what's going on and you're letting them see the other parent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, what we want to see is parents who can encourage and accept a relationship between their child and the other parent. That's what's best for kids. And that's not always easy. Sometimes, you have legitimate disputes, or the parent does have some problems that need to be dealt with. But what we do in that situation is we try to put things in place that help the children cope with. Maybe I have a parent who has some mental health issues, like they're a narcissist, or they have a drug or alcohol problem. We need to get the children support to cope with those situations, and how to have a relationship that's safe with that other parent. So it depends on the circumstances. You can go to a lot of extremes in these cases.
Well, it's got to feel great helping so many families like that. And you had said on another podcast that it can take up to a year, sometimes more, sometimes less, to do a custody case, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. It can take a long time. You want to have time that passes so that we can see whether the things that we've put in place are having some effect. So if everybody's going to go see a counselor, we want to give that time to see if the counseling is helping the family resolve some of the disputes or the issues that they're having, so that when everything's final in place, they can go on and maybe never have to look back at their court order and just live a life where they're cooperatively parenting and having the best relationship they can, living apart but parenting their children together. So we want to set them up as best we can to be in the best position to never have to ever come back to a custody battle again.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you advise your clients if they've been in a custody case for a long time? How do they know when the war's over, basically?
Well, sometimes the war's over because the judge says it's over and an order's been signed. But I really want my clients to stop thinking about the war from the moment they start working with me. I want them to start focusing on what can we do to help them get through the distress that they're feeling, and to help their children get through the stressful situation of a parent. So I want to try and do things that I can right away that are going to bring down the animosity. Sometimes that involves, what can we do, little things that we can do to create trust between the parents again, a little extending of an olive branch by, maybe trading a weekend when you really would rather not, or something like that, where they start establishing trust again. Because what I've seen over and over is when trust is really low, drama is really high, and that does not make for a good situation. So if we can bring up the trust, then the drama starts going down, and families start being more stable and able to work through and transition on to the next phase of co-parenting together.
That's great. You talk about all this in your book. There's tons of practical help in here for parents. So the Custody Lawyer podcast with Janet McCullar. I know you've got exciting guests coming up, and a book tour and a speaking tour. So we've got the link here. You can follow Janet, and thank you so much for helping families.
Thank you, Michael. Of course.
Tune into the Custody Lawyer podcast with your host, nationally acclaimed divorce and custody attorney, Janet McCullar. You will certainly glean from Janet's 26 years of experience as the custody lawyer, with every show revealing hard facts on visitation, alienation, child support, and how to best help your kids as they transition into a new normal. Listen and find out how "We have a passion for families in crisis" has become our moniker. You'll want to share the Custody Lawyer podcast with anyone you know going through this difficult journey.